The Vast of Night, and the Dawn of UFO Mythology. Presented by Amazon Prime Video. Amazon's new science fiction film, The Vast of Night, revisits the crossroads in American culture where many people became ready to believe in UFOs. Set in the twilight of the Eisenhower years, the film inhabits its time and place in American life with authentic nostalgia. The late 50s and early 60s were a moment of coming of age for the generation of baby boomers born after World War II. The youthquake hadn't happened yet, but the youth was still there, enraptured by stories of the past and the anxieties of an unknown still to come. Stargazing was nothing new, of course, but a growing preoccupation with what hid between those stars was. Well before Sputnik made folks look to the skies with dread, the first flying saucer had already done the same. In June of 1947, pilot Kenneth Arnold claimed he saw 9 saucer-shaped, silvery, smooth objects flying above Mount Rainier. By 1950, the first B-movie based on this iconography, the aptly titled The Flying Saucer, was released. Soon, the image of disc-shaped UFOs became the bread and butter of sci-fi storytellers in literature, film, and television. By and large, these fictions were created at a time when most sci-fi writers didn't actually believe stories about lights in the skies. Arguably, the genre was at a crossroads by the time of President Kennedy's inauguration. For much of the 20th century, sci-fi had mostly been dominated by relatively hopeful optimism and utopian allegories about tomorrow by Jules Verne, or soon, Gene Roddenberry.
They must apply to everyone, or they mean nothing. Do you understand?
The sci-fi that insisted the truth was out there and that it was bleak and hidden was yet to come.
And no government agency has jurisdiction over the truth.
The Vast of Night luxuriates in this intersection. We see sci-fi positivity reflected when Faye, played by Sierra McCormick, tells a boy from school, Everett, played by Jake Horowitz, about articles that say one day we'll have self-driving cars or television telephones. She's filled with the general sense of excitement sci-fi tells us to expect. But The Vast of Night itself is not one of those happy stories, nor is it a schlocky drive-in movie about flying saucers. Rather, it is a modern film that comes after decades of UFO paranoia took root, as well as a hefty amount of pessimism that came in the ensuing years. The number of UFO sightings which sprung up between the 50s and 60s reached almost epidemic proportions, especially as more people saw, or imagined they saw, the saucer-shaped craft inadvertently popularized by Arnold. Looking back at the UFO mania of the mid-20th century, Close Encounters of the Third Kind director Steven Spielberg called it an American mythology that he believed in. After all, he grew up in Arizona's wide-open spaces during the 50s and 60s, and lived through the disillusionment of the 70s. Before Close Encounters' release, he said, "I wouldn't put it past this government that a cosmic Watergate has been underway for the last 25 years. And eventually they might want to tell us about what they've discovered over the decades." That sense of primal awe of the unknown in Close Encounters permeates the unseen dread of The Vast of Night, as does some of the bleaker and more outlandish anxiety that came afterward, from fiction like The X-Files to alleged true stories, such as the violent and terrifying alien abductions recounted in Fire in the Sky. The Vast of Night examines the clash between awe and horror. While the film is set during a period of alleged innocence for characters like Everett and Faye, their bubble is being coolly observed, as much by us as any visitors from above. In recent years, decades worth of conspiracy theories were given seeming credence when the existence of UFOs, if not extraterrestrials, were confirmed by the Pentagon, 16 years after the Navy recorded the video. Recent science fiction tales of alien visitors treat the fiction as more everyday fact. The almost biblical awe seen in Spielberg's Close Encounters gave way first to a supernatural FBI procedural, and recently a social media trend about folks agreeing to storm Area 51. The Vast of Night grapples with all these anxieties and evolving disillusionments. The dawning realization about visitors and truth being out there, plus the bitter realities that the first generation who grew up with flying saucer iconography had to confront. The Vast of Night is now streaming on Amazon Prime.